What a large majority of decision makers in small and medium sized businesses struggle with is generating leads. Being a business owner myself, I know how daunting it is. You're always at the edge, worried if you'll have even make the next project in time to keep the lights on. And you are not alone, as according to HubSpot, 61% of businesses believe that generating traffic and leads is their biggest hurdle. And as a solution, you must have tried cold calling, emailing, and many other things. By the way, the success rate of cold calling is just 2%. And what's more, 80% of all the leads never result in a sale, which means to have a stable business, you need to have a lot of leads that you can convert. Now, we have clients generate new business every day. An example is our client in the metrology industry that added a significant 50% more leads from their website within just 2 weeks after we branded them and redid their website. And in this video, I want to share all the things that come together to build an effective lead generation system that you can also apply to your own business. We are focusing on inbound leads, which means leads that you attract toward yourself instead of reaching out to them. This is because inbound marketing saves you 61% of the cost compared to outbound. So here's the plan. We'll go over the complete lead generation system in detail that includes how clients buy so you understand how your customers are doing and how you can effectively appeal to them at this stage that they are at right now. Branding to have a strong, consistent message and perception so that your customers cannot ignore you. Funnels, what they are and how you can implement them. Website, how to set it up for generating leads. And last but not the least, marketing. This is the part that actually brings in people to everything you set up above. We'll see how it's done, how you can utilize your available resources in the best possible way to market consistently and effectively. I have seen a lot of videos that talk about different things causing low lead generation, but yet to find one that explains the entire cycle in one place and how it all connects. So take this as a guide that gives you a complete plan. So by the end of this video, you will have a solid idea about why you are not generating leads and how you can face exactly where the problem occurs. How clients buy. So stages of buyer journey. Let's talk about the buyer's journey as the first thing because this kind of plugs into everything that we build. So let's pay close attention. The buyer's journey is just a fancy way of saying which stages do people go through to make a decision to buy something. And it has 3 major stages. Some people break it down into more like 5 or 6, but we don't really need that many. And honestly, less is more. So it helps keep things simple. So here are the 3 stages: awareness, consideration, and decision. Now on the first stage, which is the awareness stage, the customer has just realized that they have a problem. It could be anything like we are not getting enough leads from our website, or that when we present ourselves in front of prospects, they don't see us as strongly as we are and we are struggling to build trust with them. Something like that. Then after a while, for various reasons, they discuss it among peers and the management. They look for signs if that's really the problem. And they arrive on a point as to what exactly they think is causing this. This is called the consideration stage. They have basically understood the problem and have given it a name. They might say, okay, the problem occurs because we don't look as good as our service, so we need branding, or that our website is the problem, or whatever it might be. And they move on to finding all their possible solutions. It could be tools, it could be service providers, software, AI tools, DIY tutorials, everything. After spending some time doing research, they now have a good enough idea that they can choose one category of solution, that is service providers, software, etc. This stage is called the decision stage. So they make the decision, and for our case, we'll say they choose to go with a service provider. So now they will start looking for all their options within this category, which is service providers, for example. So they compare everything like offers, pricing, quality of work, and everything else. They might contact all or some of their options and ask for a demo or a discovery call. This is usually where they ask you for a proposal too. And finally, they decide to go with one of the options, and that option gets the sale. So now you can see clearly what your customers are doing. When you receive a request for a demo or a discovery call, that is someone asked you directly for your service, they are most probably in the later two stages, means consideration or decision. And I think you would have already experienced this working with your clients, that when they come to you, they are pretty well educated about the problem at hand, and most of the times trying to judge if you are the right fit. And you would also have seen that they usually go with what they already made up their mind about. So what this tells us is that the earlier in the customer journey process you are able to get in touch with them and facilitate their decision, the more likely they are to trust you and understand that you are the right option, if you are the right one, of course. And by the way, I'm sure you will agree that the best kind of sales is made on helping out and not forcing or deception. Now, you also see why an excellent service is so effective. You become your client's default option for solving that problem, and now they just trust you. So they skip all the stages of the buyer journey and come directly to you. How nice is that? But that's a topic for another day. Coming back to our topic, you should also remember that this process is not linear. They might move back and forth between stages, so it's not really in our control. But we can deploy methods that facilitate them in making a decision and increase their chances of choosing us. So how do we use these stages? You know how sometimes you get people who you realize are not ready to buy anything but interested in learning, maybe because they ask you a question they are confused about, versus they ask you if you could help them. Well, just like you wouldn't try to sell your service to the person who just asked a question, because you know you will put them off and come off as a hard sell. Same thing happened here. You build some things and put them out in the world for people who are in the awareness stage and just looking to educate themselves. Then you build some other things that answer people's questions in the consideration stage. And finally, you build some things that are for people who are in the decision stage or are ready to buy. And in each of them, you link them back to your service so they remember where they found the best help. This is what we are going to explore more in the rest of the video. So let's keep watching. So now I hope you understand how they are buying. Remember all of this that we discussed, because we'll be building everything based on your customers' different stages. So let's move to the next step, which is branding. So what exactly is branding and why is it important? Where does it actually help your business grow? Branding, as the branding expert Marty Neumeier puts it, a brand is not a logo. It's not a product. It's not a website. It's a customer's gut feeling about your business. It's your reputation or perception in their minds. And of course, we cannot control anyone's mind. So what am I trying to say here? You cannot control anyone's mind, but you do things that influence it. How? The most obvious answer would be through good service and quality of work. That's true. It builds a really strong image of yours for people who have worked with you or their connections, but it doesn't affect people who don't know you all that much, right? Simply because they don't know you yet. This is where branding comes in. You build a brand strategy that is based on your ideal customers so that they can relate to your business and see it as an attractive option. A focused, strong, simple brand story that you can repeat over and over again to make it easy for your customers to remember you whenever they need to solve a problem that you solve. A well-designed and professionally styled marketing and business assets like website, business cards, presentation decks, and all other kinds of things that make you appear relatable and trustworthy. And all of this comes together to help build a strong perception of your business for the world. But how does it actually work? We all know the idea that first impressions matter. That is fortunately or unfortunately true, as you must have already experienced working with your clients. So for people who have not yet worked with you or are seeing you for the very first time, it's very important for you to look your best, obviously. And a well thought out and well designed brand will help exactly with that. As an example, Look at these two websites that belong to the same company. Which are you more likely to trust if you see it for the first time in your life? Of course, the second one. It's just like someone in dirty clothing and Crocs, messy hair comes up with you and says, "Dude, I can solve your problem. It will cost you 50K." Versus a well-dressed person wearing a nice cologne and talking professionally, telling you the same thing. I bet if the first person were to say 5K instead of 50 and the second person says 80K instead of 50, you will still take the second person as your option and not even consider the first one, because first impressions matter and branding helps you build a strong one. Moreover, branding also helps you stand out and gives your customers very clear reasons as to why they should choose you over all your other options. It also establishes something called contextual adjacency, which means you appeal to your best customers in the way that they prefer. Is your customer usually in a professional environment? Great, you build your brand to look and sound professional. Are they usually more relaxed or more classy? You build your brand more relaxed or more classy, whatever it might be. The sales director of a client we worked with told us that since their new branding, she found it significantly easier to get responses from follow ups with her prospects. Easier than any of her past jobs, and she has been in the industry for 20 years. Now, what makes a good brand exactly? At BigMain Studio, we follow our 5 pillars of successful branding, which are: number one, clear brand message. Is your core message extremely clear? Number two, uniqueness. Does your branding make your business appear unique and attractive? Number three, relatability. Does your branding feel relatable to your customers? Number four, visual appeal. That is your branding visually attractive? And number five, consistency. Is your branding consistent? Let's take a look at what each of these mean and why they are important. Number one, so is your core message extremely clear? What one problem are you solving for which one customer? Narrowing down this much seems limiting, but this is basically the only way to occupy space in people's minds. The human mind is always looking to make sense of everything, and simplifying is one of the major ways it does that. But this does not mean that you need to get rid of everything you offer. Instead, if you offer a lot of different products or services for a lot of different customers, find the most common major solution between your offers and the most major common problem faced by all of your customers. At the end, you'll have a sentence that goes like, "We solve X for Y who are facing Z." X being the solution you are offering, Y being the customer this is for, and Z being the problem that they are facing. For example, we manage all the logistics and planning of oil and gas companies building drill rigs in the ocean. It's all about whether the way you present yourself to your customers is extremely clear, easy to understand, and remember. Then moving on to the next one, does your branding make your business appear unique? In this world of endless options, uniqueness is one of your biggest allies. You already know that people don't buy it right when they see you for the first time, right? Instead, it takes them a lot of time to warm up. And warming up basically means they feel comfortable in choosing you. If you're not unique, they will not remember you. And people warm up only when they remember you. And generating leads is, of course, all about bringing new people in who might have never known you before. So this part holds a lot of value. So the third one is, does your branding feel relatable to your customers? Does your website, brochure, and other marketing and sales material use the language that your ideal customer speaks? Does it all look the way that they like? Think about it. When you meet a customer in person, you choose an appropriate attire and place. You talk in the way that they are comfortable with. Your online presence is basically doing what you would do just when you're not around. The next one is your branding visually attractive? In this world full of noise, nice looking visuals make it easier for your customers to digest your message because it feels good. Says beauty is subjective. People who like how your business looks feel more connected and comfortable. New research shows that up to 70% of all B2B decisions are made emotionally, or in other words, because it feels right in the heart. The next one is your branding consistent? If you use one kind of wording in one place and another in other places, or your core offer changes every couple of months, or your design style changes for every marketing piece, you will never have a brand, unfortunately. Brands are built by customers remembering one single thing about you, which makes them feel comfortable with your business over time. And what is repeated is, of course, remembered. So repeat it all so much and for so long that people have no choice but to associate your brand with your offer, looks, and words. Identifying and fixing an underperforming brand. Now, if you're thinking about updating your existing brand, you should thoroughly check if your brand is actually lacking before making any changes. You never want to make big changes to your brand without being fully certain, because if done wrong, it can alienate your existing customer base. And here's how to make sure if your brand really needs updating. First of all, look at the data. So see if people who came in from your marketing efforts and initial stages of sales were your ideal customers. Also see if they were clear about what they will get from engaging with your business. If you don't have much data, show your website, pitch decks, brochures, or any other piece of marketing or sales material that you have to your past customers and other people who you know who could be your ideal customers. This will give you valuable feedback from people who can directly benefit from your business. Once you have the data, conduct a workshop for marketing decisions, because branding is never a single person sport. It requires insights from almost all functions of your business. That's because it's meant to represent well your entire business. So once you have gathered the data, bring all your fellow decision makers together for a branding workshop and go over the collected feedback, data, and the Wingmare's 5 pillars for successful branding in depth. Now, here it's very important that you think from a customer's perspective who has never known you, because while you have all the knowledge of your business, they know nothing about it yet. And the goal of your brand is to attract customers and not the internal team, of course. The goal of this workshop is to, number one, pinpoint all the exact problems. Things like people are usually confused, which means our message needs more clarity, or our brand style doesn't look mature, or anything else that you find. Then solve them together. Once again, a good branding is a result of a team effort. Then get all 5 pillars of successful branding implemented. And finally, after testing and getting feedback from your customers and branding experts, get everything fixed. This will take you some time, so plan it over the next few weeks or months and work on it step by step. You'll use the same process as we saw earlier. Then once you're done, you need to commit to continuing with the same branding for years. Anything we do in business, of course, needs some time to take effect, and branding is no different. Some minor details can change over time, like you might change a word or two over time, or the style of your iconography might change slightly, but the majority of it should remain the same for years or even decades. Even if you make some changes, make sure it doesn't look vastly different from before and still looks undeniably like your brand. And if you're wondering if your brand really needs work and need an expert opinion, take our free brand assessment. It's completely free. It takes just 3 minutes of your time to fill it out completely. And our experts, including myself, we'll look at your answers, your website, and everything, and we'll get back to you with our expert opinions. So click the link in the description to take the free brand assessment. Now that we know what branding is and how it helps, where do you start building a brand? There are a few steps. Number one, research your market and competition. Two, prepare a list of everything you are good and position yourself effectively in the market. Define your audience, define a brand personality, write down your brand story, design the brand style, apply it to all your digital and physical assets like websites, emails, business cards, pitch decks, and so on. There are a lot of details to each of these steps which I cannot cover in this video alone, so we are going to go in some detail and then make videos on each topic separately. So if you're interested in that, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Let's start with the first step, research. In branding or any creative design project in general, your work is as good as your research. So don't hold back on it. You're researching your market, your competitors, what's working for them and what's not. Is their website good? Is their message clear enough for a non-technical person to understand? Are they doing well in their business, and how much do you think their website and other assets make a difference, etc.? And you are also looking at brands from other industries that resonate with you and you feel that they represent your way of working and your values. This will give you a good idea of what's working, in that customers are responding positively to what you should avoid. And third, and this is very important, what gaps are there in the market and what are the most common themes. You want to fill in the gaps and follow some industry norms so you don't feel completely unfamiliar, because customers might not feel comfortable with a completely new kind of thing, right? But you also don't want to look like everyone else, so that they can see exactly what makes you better for them. So you need to find that balance. Once you have completed the research, you look inside. You find out what exactly makes you different or better than your competition. This information, combined with the market gaps you found out during the research phase, will help you define your market positioning, which of course just means setting which are the gaps your offer solves. You can use a matrix for this, anyone that makes sense for your industry, like a SWOT matrix or a positioning matrix, for example. This will help you visualize exactly where your offer is and if you need to move it to become more competitive. This is more of a business decision, so use your experience here to decide. Your branding will follow that decision. Also, a great way of finding out your strengths is to look at what your customers have said about you over the years. Make a list and highlight the top things. The most common one is your most important quality, and then the next, and so on. And an example is our own list that we made when we were doing this for Wingmate, which is my design agency. So we found the most common ones and highlighted them using different colors, as you can see on the screen, and listed them based on that. This will help us in the story steps. Now you define your audience. This is very important, because if you don't do it, you will be talking to everyone, and when you talk to everyone, you talk to no one, because then you have to talk in such generic terms that no one is able to relate to it as their own problem. I will give Wingmate's example once again. Our headline says, the design partner that just gets you, because the main thing that came up in almost every single client feedback has been that we felt that you just get us. The second most common was that you feel like an extension of our team and not a contractor. So we said your design partner instead of agency or designer, etc. So for anyone who is facing a problem where they feel they are misunderstood by the creative agency and looking for someone who understands them and works like a team, they will know we are exactly for them. So define your audience and decide who benefits from your service the most. If someone from another industry comes to you, it doesn't mean that you will not work with them. If they are a good fit, great, you work with them. Focusing just means you make yourself appear super relevant for a particular kind of customer when you're broadcasting, not that you close your doors to everyone else. Now that your audience has been defined, you build a brand personality that appeals to your audience and that they can relate to. What this means is that you are giving your business an identity of its own. Just like humans look and act a certain way, and we are identifiable through our personality traits. Think of it like this. If you're someone who likes going out a lot, you will be able to relate with someone and feel a little comfortable with them if they like going out too, versus someone who doesn't like going out. Same way, if we build the personas right, we'll be able to understand who your audience would most likely prefer to work with, and you build those personality traits into your brand. You can use brand archetypes for this. They are an easy way to see which archetype is the closest to your audience and yourself, and use those as a starting point. You'll most likely find yourself going back and forth between more than one. Just choose the closest one or edit one that is close but not quite there. Just make sure you don't choose two conflicting items. We have defined your brand personality. Great work, we are almost there. Next thing to write down is your brand story. Brand stories are important because storytelling is a highly effective tool to attract people's attention. But there's a way that I recommend you go with. If you Google brand story, you'll find that it's a crafted story for customer engagement, and many times it's fake and made up. That's not a nice way to build rapport with people. If you have a great story, amazing. If not, then you definitely don't need to make up a lie. Instead, for a brand story, I would highly recommend going with Donald Miller's story brand Soundbite framework. It talks about why customers should care about you. And as we all know, everyone cares about solving their problems. So when you lead with their problem, they take interest in what you have to say. I will leave a link in the description to Donald Miller's channel so you can learn more directly from him. But here's the summary. You need to own a problem and you need to communicate it extremely clearly and simply. Next, you need to have it in a story format to engage your prospect. Donald Miller uses a few steps or sound bars, as he calls it, that will help you build an engaging story. You can use his newer 7-step version to build a framework, but I will share the summary and example after that. So you define your audience's problem that you're solving. This needs to be extremely clear, and it should be only one problem so that people can remember it easily. You can include your other offers later during your conversation, but at the start, you are only building curiosity and engaging them in your service. Show empathy that you feel them and know how frustrating or daunting it is, and also add proof for credibility. Number 2, offer your exact service that solves that particular problem and how it works. Result, what happens when their problem is solved, that is how the result will have been achieved and how they will feel when it's done, long-term benefit that they'll receive. So these are the parts that you want to write down. Spend some time on it to make it effective. Now, as promised, here's an example of my agency, Wingmate. Here's our story that you can pause to read. Here's how we did it. First, this is our audience. Decision makers in small and medium-sized businesses operating in highly complex industries, primarily from the Gulf and the American regions. So everything that comes next will be geared toward this group of people using the information that we found through research and our past experience working with them. Then we defined the problem. So we found that the biggest problem that we solve for our clients, according to their feedbacks, has been the fact that we understood them very well and included them at every stage of the decision-making process. So this is what we wrote. How many times has your vision been ignored in your design project? When the right people hear it, they will pay attention. Then we double down on the problem by mentioning what happens when their vision is ignored. And worse, the design gives off an inaccurate impression of your business, because a misunderstood creative project is going to produce the wrong results. Then for the empathy and proof parts, we say it's surprisingly common and we completely understand your frustration. In fact, we have helped many businesses who struggle with the same problem. This tells the prospect that we understand them and have been solving the same problems for others, which makes us capable of solving your problem too. After that comes the offer. So we say our design service produces work that represents your strong image perfectly through processes that adapt completely to your vision and circumstances. Very clear and straightforward, no complexity. Anyone who hears this is going to understand what we are talking about. Lastly, the result. In our version, we have combined the immediate results and the long-term results together. So we say By the end of each project, 100% of our clients have peace of mind that they are represented accurately and have someone in an arm's reach who just gets them. Notice how it's all very simple and easy to understand. No jargons or difficult words. Also, you can work on making your versions sound good and easy to digest. So you can combine different things. And of course, if you need help with your brand story, you can book a free call with me and my team from the free consultation link in the description. Now, the last two steps go hand in hand, so let's look at them together. This is where you design the brand identity, which includes the logo, colors, fonts, brand patterns, style of imagery, iconography, illustrations, video and animation styles, and so on. You can design only what your business needs. Not every business needs everything. For example, a product-based company might need to set a product photography style, while a service company will, of course, not need it. Here's the process that we follow to design a great brand identity. We build mood boards. A mood board is a collection of images from our past work and the internet. Each of them represent a particular design style. It's a great tool to help all stakeholders to visualize what their brand can look like. We like to build 3 to 5 different ones, each representing a different style and mix of personality traits. Some of them may be more friendly, some more professional, and some might be very exciting or more relaxed. They also sometimes represent different styles within the same personalities. What's important is to choose only one option to move forward with. Then we take the selected mood board option and design a logo, brand style, and identity that includes fonts, colors, image, style, pattern, and etc. After that is done, the feedback is done, and everything is approved. The branding is applied to all your needed business assets. The most major one usually being the website, pitch deck, and brochures. You can see through the examples on the screen how it progresses. For this part, I would highly recommend going with someone professional because this is the part that brings everything you have worked on actually into being. If you don't have the budget to continue with them for long term, then you can use something like AI tools or templates, and you can include setting these up as a part of the project. Tools like Canva or the new Google Pomeli can be useful. So as a summary, here's what we saw. Research and marketing competition, prepare a list of everything you are good at and position yourself effectively in the market. Define your audience, define a brand personality, write down your brand story, design the brand style, and apply it to all your digital and physical assets like websites, emails, business cards, pitch decks, and so on. And the next step is to talk about funnels and how they are used to make your website super effective. Because there's a difference between a website that helps you generate leads and a website that just acts as a portfolio. Let's talk about what a funnel actually is, and then we can look at how it works. A funnel is a step-by-step path your leads take from getting to know you to finally becoming your customer. For example, you can say our customers come in from point A, then they move to point B, then C, and so on up to the point of a sale. Here's a quick example. You post videos on YouTube, your customer finds you there as a first step. You offer something valuable like a downloadable PDF. They download it, they might give you their email address for it. This is the second step. Then inside the PDF, you give them a clear next step, something like an option to get in touch with you. They take that step to get on a call where you talk about their goal and hopefully onboard them as a customer. This is, of course, a simplified version. In the real world, people move back and forth, so you build different funnels and connect many things together so that they get as much value from you as possible. Now, funnels can be divided into 2 parts. Your marketing funnel, or you can call it the lead generating funnel, and number 2, your sales funnel, which starts when a lead is ready to start talking about a sale. Since we are talking about generating leads, we are going to look at the marketing or the lead generating funnel. So here goes. You remember the buyer journey that we talked about? Yes, the awareness, consideration, and decision stages. This is where we are going to use all of that. How? Well, we will have funnel for each of the stages. So we basically will have multiple of them that all work on moving easily to the next stage of their buyer journey and finally to converting them into a customer. So here's how it works. We learned that the customer at each of the stages has different needs. So we are going to build something that caters to them at that specific stage. Now there are a lot of people out there at different stages. If you create something that caters to the needs of people in the awareness stage, you attract those people. And if you create something that caters to the needs of the people in the second or the third stage, you attract those people. So we are simply going to build things like content, PDFs, reports, etc., and put those things out on our website, on social media, and other relevant channels to attract people. Let's start with the people on the awareness stage. These people are looking for information. They might like stats, insights, expert opinions to validate that the problem they have is actually there and if the problem they are thinking about is the right one. So you write your blog posts about those problems or make videos, for example, things that don't require a big commitment from the customer. And in each of these pieces include something else to help them go toward the next helpful content. For example, mention one video in another, give a PDF to download and have a clear call to action in there as to what their next step should be, or link to a free online assessment so they can validate their thoughts. When these people have validated their problem, they found your content useful, they are highly likely to keep you in their mind for the next stage. During the consideration stage, people are looking for all kinds of possible solutions like service providers, DIY solutions, AI, maybe SaaS. For these people, make case studies, tell them how these problems are solved and give them a lot of value. Things like PDF guides, free consultation or free service can be really good here because these things don't require a large commitment and give them a good idea of your offer. They now have a good idea of what it will be like to work with you. So when they finally make a decision at the third stage, they will most likely remember you. You should also ask for their email or contact information because they might be more willing to provide that information in exchange for good value. On the decision stage, people have made up their minds about the kind of solution they are going to go with. Now they are looking for options within that category. For example, they choose to go with a customized service provider. Now they are looking for these specifics. How does the service work? What does the pricing look like? What results does it produce? Are they credible? For these people, make content that clearly shows the benefits of working with you and how you are a great fit compared to your competition. Show your portfolio and work, drive them toward a free service or consultation offer or a low-cost offer to reduce the barrier to entry so that they can give your service a try without major risk. So let's build a funnel right now so it all makes sense. So you have 3 funnels for this example, right? And you can have more to cover every place that people come to you from. So for example, social media, website, Google, ChatGPT, etc. To understand, let's take this as an example scenario. Let's say you are a solution provider for oil and gas companies. You offer surveillance solutions for their oil rigs. Let's say a governing body just announced a new set of regulations for worker safety, which will take effect after some time. After the news goes out, the owners of rigs are now thinking about it and will want information to learn exactly what it means for their rigs and what areas of their rigs will be affected. Let's build a funnel first for people who are in the first stage of the buyer's journey, which means they are not ready to buy yet but are aware of their problem and are looking for information. Based on our example, oil rig owners will now start to look for explanations on the new government policies. So your funnel could look something like this. Step 1, start making content that explains the new policy in detail, including what exactly needs to be done to ensure compliance. This could be in the form of text-based posts, YouTube content, or maybe paid ads. Step 2, when people view your content, you offer a downloadable PDF that goes through everything in detail. This will help them share your information with their colleagues by sharing the PDF. And step 3, inside the white paper, you include a link to another piece of educational content that gives them more detail and a way to get in touch with you when they are ready. Step 4, when they contact you, your sales process starts. This is your funnel based on 4 steps. Your goal is to make it easy for people to take the next step. You do this by reducing the level of commitment needed to take the step. In our example above, the first step is very easy to take. There is barely a commitment of a few minutes in reading your post or watching a video. Then you offer a white paper, which is also free and is valuable, but a bigger commitment than before because it takes more time to read through. Then you ask them for a bigger commitment, which is a consultation call. Same way, we are going to make a funnel for people in their second and third stages of the buyer's journey. So for people in the consideration stage, which means they know what areas in their rigs need to be updated and are looking for all possible service providers, the funnel for them will remain more or less the same, but content types will differ. Step 1, you make content that not only talks about the policy, but also about how your solution can solve it. You also share past case studies and share learnings through them. This will help you get your solution seen while building credibility. Step 2, when people view your content, once again, you offer a downloadable PDF with more details. Maybe it's a white paper with all details, including your product information. Step 3, inside the white paper, you include a clear call to action telling people to contact you for a consultation where you can answer their questions. And ideally, this consultation is free. Step 4, during the consultation, you answer their questions and give them an easy way to contact you for any help in the future when they are ready to buy your solution. Maybe you exchange phone numbers for quick access. This will give them a reason to remember you when they make their buying decision. Also, you will notice is the same idea as before, offering value in the form of information that your customers are looking for and helping them get closer to you over time with the least amount of resistance or commitment. Lastly, for the people in the decision stage, which means they are ready to buy and are just deciding who to work with, they need to see your credentials. Once again, it will be a similar set of steps but with different content. So step 1, post content or ads that talk about your past portfolio, your offers, your clients. Step 2, give people a clear way to get in touch with you. It could be, once again, a downloadable PDF, or it could be a form or call to a low cost offer that they can get to test how it's like working with you. Something that, once again, reduces frictions and makes it easy for them to say yes. So with all these 3 examples, you can see it's all about moving people closer to working with you with the least possible commitment. It works over time and it involves planning it all out while keeping your assets in mind, like your website, marketing, pitch decks, etc. One thing to remember is that while we plan our funnels like this, people don't come in how we intended. They move back and forth between your content, your website. They may never download a PDF, or if they do, they might completely ignore your call to action. So what you do is you add everything in one place. From our previous example, every funnel had a downloadable PDF. You can control who downloads it at what stage, but what you can control is what content you include. So you include all the explanation about the new policy, which is valuable for the people in the first stage, then information about your solution, valuable for people in the second stage, then include case studies and portfolio, which is valuable for second and third stage people. You also include different call to actions, one for the people in the first stage and one for the second and third stage to get in touch with you. Website. Your website is an important part of your online existence, yet most of the times it's treated as an afterthought. And when it's eventually updated, it turns out to be a portfolio website that customers don't want to visit instead of a marketing website that converts leads into customers. Think about it this way. You meet a new customer who is interested in working with you. Right when you meet them, will you start talking about how great your service is, or will you ask about their problems and goals and offer a solution? Of course, you are going to talk about their problem, right? If you just talk about how good you are, they will roll their eyes and walk away. Even personal relationships won't last if we only talk about ourselves and how good we are and barely acknowledge the person in front of us. With that example, I want to make a very important point. In fact, it's probably the most important point you can take away about websites from this section of the video. Your website is your representative when you are not around, which means when people visit your website, they are effectively visiting you. If all that your website talks about is your service, you are going to lose leads. So what does that mean for your website? It means your website should talk about your customers' problems and how you solve them as the main message. So when your landing page opens, instead of a tagline that says something clever about your service being the best, or just saying what service you offer, it should say something that tells the visitor what problem you solve and what sets you apart exactly. For example, if you offer surveillance solutions to oil rigs and your main differentiation factor is that you offer a turnkey service, don't just say top surveillance solution provider. You can say something like security and peace of mind through advanced surveillance solutions. This is of course a rough example and can be improved a lot, but you get the point. Now that we understand what message your website should communicate, let's take a look at a few major and unfortunately common mistakes that most websites make. Not talking about the customer, design problems, inefficient use of content, no lead pipelines or lead magnets. The first one we have already talked about, that your website should talk about the customer's problem and how you solve it. By the way, you will also notice how setting the audience and brand story during their branding phase becomes useful here. If you did your branding right, you will be very clear about what problems you are solving and what your tagline and content should be. After that, we have design problems, and we can divide these into two types. User experience problems, which means things that make it complex for people to use your website. And number two, visual design and branding problems, which includes how the website actually looks. Let's talk about user experience problems first. A hotel called the Vineyard increased their call to action clicks by 32% by switching from text-based to a button-based CTA and making it more visible. Imagine increasing your revenue by tens of percentage points just because you change how the button looks on your website. It's that important. So make sure that number one, your call to action buttons are very clearly visible. Number two, that they are large enough to click easily. And number three, instead of using generic text, write the result that people will get when they click the button. For example, download a spec sheet instead of learn more. A second very common problem is unclear navigation. So many websites have confusing navigation menus. Some have so little links that they are not clear, while others have an overwhelming number of links. The human brain gets overwhelmed in the presence of too many options. You want to make sure you put only the most important links at the top. The idea is to offer people an easy way to see where they are in the website at any given time and a way for them to jump to any page they want anytime they want to. If your website is large and complex with a lot of information, categorize them into a few major groups. 5 to 7 would be a good number to aim for the links. To make sure you are categorizing in a way that will be easily understandable by visitors, use a card sorting session. It works by writing the name of each piece of content on sticky notes or papers. Then you bring all the decision makers together and ask them to put related contents into buckets. When all contents are sorted, you name each bucket as a category. Having many people from different backgrounds together increases the chances that the final navigation will be easily understandable for everyone who visits your website. Our second category is visual design and branding problems. While choosing the right fonts and colors might look unimportant, they make a significant difference in people's perception about you and their ability to understand and value your message. Look at it like this, and it will all make sense. When you talk to someone, you try to be clear by using certain words and certain patterns of speech. Some people are so good at it that they change minds just by their way of speaking. Design is also a communication language. It just happens to be visual instead of verbal. You employ good design and it will make your message instantly effective. If the design is not good, it will strip your good message of all perceived value. Second problem is poor hierarchy. If your website or whatever you design for that matter doesn't have visual hierarchy, it will appear as unclear gibberish instead of the carefully crafted message that you want to convey. But what exactly is visual hierarchy? Whenever something is designed, there needs to be one main point of focus that attracts the viewer's eye toward the design. Then there will be a secondary point of focus, then third, and so on. Take a look at this example. There is a photo, a heading, a subheading, and a paragraph, and a call to action. Can you tell which one is which easily? No. It requires you to make extra effort just to get the message. And the human mind does not like pressure like this. And when it gets overwhelmed, people leave your website. Here's the fixed design. See how easy it is to read now? So think about what you want to show first, then second, then third to clearly communicate your message. The third problem is inconsistent branding. As we learned earlier, one of the 5 pillars of a successful branding is consistency. Your website should follow the same design style and word choices as all other assets, like your social posts, pitch decks, brochures, etc. So many websites out there don't think about branding at all, and it costs you precious trust. Just look at these 2 examples. Which one are you going to trust more? So use the same fonts and colors on all your material. The next problem is that most websites are not optimized for all devices. About 60% of all web traffic comes from mobile device users. If your website does not display or function properly on desktops, tablets, and portrait and landscape orientation on mobile phones, you are missing out significantly. A surprisingly high number of websites in 2026 are not mobile optimized. This is costing you more than half of your total visitors. So make sure you test your website on devices of all sizes. The third type of very common website mistake is with the content. There are thousands of websites that try to say way too much, and what's more problematic is that they are not clear. Let's see the first one in a bit of detail first and how to solve it. Most websites have so much content that it becomes indigestible for the visitors. Long paragraphs with entire stories are not readable. According to studies, people skim through website content. If you write too much, they will not get almost anything. To fix this, think about website content just like a conversation. When you meet someone new and introduce yourself and your business to them, you start with a summary of the most important points. Then, as the conversation progresses, you open up with more information. There's a natural flow that you follow, right? Same way, think carefully about what message is the most important and intriguing for most customers visiting your website. That goes on your homepage. Then for the customers who do get interested in learning more, you have inner pages. The more levels of complexity that your information requires, the deeper in order the information goes. For example, when we were working with eOptic, their product lineup was one of the most important things that they wanted to highlight. There was number 1, an introduction on the homepage. Secondly, a basic information about the entire lineup in an internal page. Then they had technical specifications of the lineup. And lastly, they had specific details of each of the product. What we did was we put the introductory paragraph on the homepage with buttons then linked to more information and to technical specs. These options cater to people of both categories of customers, the strategic or business people and technical engineers respectively. Then inside we made tabs for ease of navigation. For people who want further model specific information, they can get it through links from inside the technical specs tab, which is the logical placement because only the people who are looking for technical specs are going to be interested in finding out such specific information. With this arrangement, we were able to keep everything simple enough for the non-technical business users, but also give the option to view technical information for engineers. So in general, just think about it a little more. If you have done your branding the way we learned at the start, you will be able to make these decisions quite easily. Then unclear messaging. So many websites try to say it all or try to talk about the results that they produce. This is the wrong approach. And I know I said you need to talk about the customer's problem and how you solve it, but it's also important to clearly say what you offer. What I mean by that is don't just say secure your oil rig premises and just continue talking about security in general, because now your customer doesn't know what exactly you are offering. Is it cameras? Is it security teams? Is it something else? Explicitly tell people how you do it. So you can instead say secure your oil rig premises through advanced surveillance solutions, for example, and it will all make sense. The last website mistake I will talk about is a major lost opportunity, which is making your website not meeting your leads at their current stage. What I mean by that is, as we learned earlier in this video, every customer who visits your website is in one of the three buying stages. Some people are in their abandoned stage, which means they are only looking for information. Some are in consideration stage, so they are looking for proof, and some are in the decision stage, which means they are looking for your offer and its specifics. You already have included a contact form on your website and maybe contact information as well, which is fine for the people in their decision stage since they are looking to just make a decision and start working with you. And by experience, you already know that these people are in the smallest number out of all the people who you meet. But what about the people in the other stages? As a business decision maker, you also know there is major value in keeping connected with people who are not ready to buy from you. Network is your net worth, but they are not ready to buy from you yet. So you need to give them something that they find valuable to get them onboarded to the journey of getting closer to you. And you do that through lead magnets. Lead magnets are any valuable item that you give for free that solves one of your customers' problems, sometimes in exchange for their contact information. This could be in the form of an industry report PDF, a free online assessment, a free consultation, etc. So add something like this to your website. Have a lot of them on different topics. One extremely common theme I see is companies building out a new website, having done branding and everything right, but then they wait for people to find them. Unfortunately, that does not work. To bring people to your website, you need to put the word out there, and that is done through marketing. The more your potential customers see you, the more leads you generate. And of course, the more leads that you generate, the more sales you make. Let's take a look at the basics of marketing and how you can plan and launch yours to attract customers and generate leads. At its core, marketing is any way that you tell about yourself to other people. Usually it's in a one-to-many format. Now, most of us know this, but what we get wrong is that we start announcing our services to people, which is not a good way of getting people's attention. And that is because nobody inherently cares about your business. We only think about a business when we have a problem to solve and that business has the means to solve it for us. So the very first thing to remember, and it has been the theme throughout this video, is to always talk about the problem and how your service solves it. Here's an example from my agency, Wingman Studio. We do design and branding. Now, which one of these two attract more of your attention? We offer design and branding services. Option 2. Is building trust with your prospects overly challenging? Build instant trust with your prospects through branding with Wingmate Studio. So just by leading with the problem that the customer is facing, you immediately become much more valuable. So let's see how you can actually do your marketing. As part of the process, you need to first build a strategy that includes choosing the right platforms and then choosing the kind of content you will be putting out there. So number one, strategy. Like everything we have done so far, we will keep our customer in mind while thinking about the strategy and content. It's the same customer that you defined when you were branding your company. When you know who your customer is, you can find out where they are, what their problems and goals are, and what content they might be looking for. A quick way of finding out the platforms is to give ChatGPT the details of your customers and ask it to give you a list of places where they are. ChatGPT can be inaccurate, so ask it to cite the sources it's getting its data from. You can also ask your existing customers which platforms they usually like to use when they are finding answers to questions related to your field, which should give you a good idea given that these people are your literal audience. Now that you have found out the platforms where they are, for example YouTube and LinkedIn, you can now strategize your content. To do that, look at the problems you're solving for your customers, your strengths and your offer, and make content about the topics that surround these. You can also answer common questions that you have received from your customers. Your customers are industry outsiders in the past. Try different kinds of content like short form and long form videos, short posts or articles, or maybe carousels. Whatever you do, use the story format, which is start with the problem, then empathize with them, then mention your credentials, then tell the solution, then you mention the result of solving it, and optionally you can also mention the harm of not solving the problem. For example, in this post that you see on the screen, you can see I start with the problem, then I empathize, then mention that I know because I have worked with many clients and that it has produced results, which is my credential, which gives people a reason to believe me. Then I tell the solution, which is these 5 or 6 steps. Now, if you just keep posting educational content, people are not going to just come to you to get your services or product. So you need to explicitly ask them to do it by having a call to action in your posts. But you can have a call to action about buying from you in every post because that's not nice and it drives people away. So a good number to remember is to put a call to action in once every 4 to 5 posts. If you are making short form text or videos, for long form texts or long form videos like 15 minutes or longer, you can have one call to action every 4 to 5 minutes. Now, don't make every call to action about buying from you. Instead, sometimes give something away for free that is useful for your customers, like a white paper PDF, for example. Now, this all seems like a lot of work, but the good news is you can always repurpose content. The way it works is you take your existing content and adapt to a different format. And how exactly can you do it? I will give you my example. We are making one long form video every few weeks. This video, for example, the one that you are watching right now, is something like 40 plus minutes. We cut it down into many 1 minute YouTube shorts. It will make about 30 short videos that way. We'll also cut it down to separate each section of this video. Total of 4 sections means 4 10 to 15 minute videos. These will be good for people who are looking for information about one particular topic. So that is about 35 pieces of content already. Then we take the script of this video that I prepare in text before recording and we cut it down into detailed articles. These articles go to my LinkedIn newsletter and on our website blog. The blog helps with bringing people through SEO and AI search results. Then we turn this script into a PDF guide for building online lead generation systems. We take those and host them on our website. So this is how you can be really efficient with your marketing. There are people with all kinds of habits and preferences when it comes to searching for solutions and consuming content. And the more formats you cover, the better off you will be. So now that we have covered all of these steps that you need to build an effective lead generation system, Here's the summary that you can pause the video and take a screen grab maybe. So go back to your drawing board, go back to your stakeholders and team and see what you're missing and try to solve it.